Hello, everybody, and a very warm welcome to our security series with the title Secure Your Systems with Our Ecosystem. So what we are doing here, this is a series about several topics around security in relation to the IBM mainframe, IBM C platform, and we are driving this together as IBM with our ecosystem, so with several ISVs. The idea is to discuss current activities around security, to provide best practices. And of course, in the end, we want to improve security and we want to prevent from cyber attacks and want to do this, of course, for you, our clients around the IBM C platform. Many often say that IBM is called the most securable platform. And today and in the upcoming sessions, then we want to discuss how you really can make sure that it's not only called the most securable platform, but how you can implement the most secure platform. So that's the idea. My name is Christian Daser. I am leading the IBM C business in DACH, meaning Germany, Austria, Switzerland. We decided to run this not only in DACH, but open to the world. And I'm looking forward to a really interactive session with our partners, with our ISVs, and of course with you, our clients. Today we start kicking this off, and the initial session is the idea is to have a round table where we bring everybody together, so all the ISVs, and we give an overview of current topics and want to provide insight into the items that we will then further outline in detailed sessions afterwards. So over the following 6 weeks, each ISV will present you one specific challenge of mainframe security and how it can be addressed. This digital channel is also new for us, so at least for me. So first time for me to do it in such a format. So I'm really excited personally about this. I'm also excited about what will not happen, what will not work. So I hope we have some fun also in this session, and really looking forward to this. So stay till the end, not only for today, but also for the upcoming sessions over the next weeks. We will try to make this really interactive. So we have moderator team behind us, and we are able to provide answers. And you can raise questions over the chat function. I hope everybody can see it, and then we try to answer all of them. We will start, of course, with a little introduction round. I start with the IBM team around me. So you will later see Larissa Thiele and you will see Felix Weisbeck. They are, I would call them, the masterminds behind this series. Larissa is an IBM C software representative for several clients in Germany. And she focused on security over several years now, especially around zSecurity. Felix is our subject matter expert for everything related to ISVs on the IBM C platform, on mainframe platform. And you will see him later, also in moderator role and also with some content around zSecurity. That, by the way, brings me to one more important topic. Both Larissa and Felix are two great examples on how new talents can enter the C space. Don't know it for sure, but I think they have experience in IT, not even for more than 5 years, but they have already acquired great skill and experience, and also very senior and experienced mainframers can benefit from their experience. And this is important for me personally. Try to bring more junior people into the C space. And I'd like to encourage all clients, all IBM C clients, and partners to do the same, because that's important, for mainframe future, and especially to keep innovation on the platform and bring new innovation in. So now I talked a lot about IBM. I think we can hand it over to the ISVs, and I pass it on to Larissa and Felix.
Thank you, Christian, for this introduction. And to everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and many greetings from the north of Germany. Christian has already introduced our IBM team, but more important, we have our ecosystem on board today. And by this, I would like to hand over to Roy to introduce himself and his company.
Hi, yeah, okay, my name's Roy Boxwell. Speaking of junior, I used to be junior, but I don't think I am anymore. Basically, I'm a senior software architect at the firm Software Engineering, based here, where I live in Germany. I'm the lead developer for the Workload Expert tool, which is migrating across from Workload Expert more into the audit eco landscape, so to speak. We've also done a couple of APIs recently for Leaf and for syslog support for auditing, so that people can disgorge the data down to Splunk or wherever they want to go. And of course, what we've done for the junior people in the world, we've actually now got Zoe front end for all of the non-mainframe people out there, because of course Zoe is probably going to be the future of how mainframes are going to go. That's it from my point.
Thank you so much, Roy, and I would like to hand over to Adam.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. My name's Adam Keeling, and I'm excited to be here and thankful for all of you tuning in today. I'm a pre-sales engineer at Beta Systems Software. We are headquartered in Berlin, Germany, but I help to serve most of our customers with their solutions in the United States. And my primary role and focus is really our custom mainframe security solutions that we offer at Beta Systems. And as a company, of course, we do offer much more than just mainframe security software. Our solutions span network management, mainframes, and distributed systems, and really bridging the gap between the two and providing better interfaces, especially for younger mainframers as well. And we handle tasks from workload automation to archiving and security management. And I've really spent quite a bit of time supporting our customers with security solutions, and it's allowed me to gain a better appreciation for strengths and weaknesses that we've been seeing develop across our corporate networks, our mainframe systems, and beyond that. So I'll only be able to briefly touch on some of those in our session today, but I certainly am looking forward to the session on April 7th, where we'll jump into those topics in much more detail. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Adam, for your introduction. Now let's hand over to Jürgen.
Thanks, Felix. Hello, everyone. My name is Jürgen Lind, and I'm Senior Director of Product Management at Software AG. Software AG is headquartered in Darmstadt, Germany, and we are a global software company supporting our customers into a truly connected digital enterprise, with having more than 10,000 customers worldwide across actually all kinds of industries. My area of responsibility is our database management system, Adabas, running on z/OS mainframe as well as on Linux. I used to be responsible for our mainframe integration middleware NTRX for 15 years. And 5 years back, I started to get into Adabas in parallel. And meanwhile, I'm fully responsible for the Adabas family of products, including the z/OS mainframe. That's why I'm here today. Coming from NTRX, where security has been a hot topic from the beginning, I say I can now profit also for it for the Adabas products, actually. So security is a very interesting topic to me. Unfortunately, it's also becoming very popular in times of ransomware attacks or even digital warfare. I will discuss this topic with a special focus on database security end of April. So any person interested in that, in security, can profit from it. I will start from the ground, looking at it from different angles and perspectives. So you can look forward to an inspiring session about database security. Today, I'm talking to you from my home office in Landau in der Pfalz, which is probably best translated to Landau-Palatinate. And privately, my favorite passion is to dance Argentine tango if I'm not preparing an IBM zSecurity session about database security. Thank you.
Thank you, Jürgen, for sharing this view. And as you can see, we have a lot of different speakers with different backgrounds on board today. And as Christian has mentioned, I'm, for instance, part of the zStack family for around a bit less than 5 years now. But I'm happy to have Alina with us on board today, who has a lot of more experience than I do. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Larissa, and thank you, Christian, also for inviting me and being here. I'm quite excited, my first live stream, to be honest. Well, my name is Alina Moth. I'm working as a security consultant with Empalis in Stuttgart, specialized in key management, cryptography, and this is my background. 20 years back, if I look, in designing programming security solutions for securing the data between two endpoints, like ATMs, for example, and the backend systems of the banks. Meanwhile, I'm rather helping the customers get accommodated with this infrastructure, with what's around it, especially around such a solution like key management, also understanding and implementing key management solution and dealing indeed with a lot of processes and organizational issues. Empalis itself is probably more than 13 years, meanwhile, on the market, deep expertise in IT infrastructure products or solutions around data protection, backup, also disaster recovery cases, disaster planning, but also helping the IBM team itself in a Böblingen lab to develop or to test also the Linux One machine, the new platform from the mainframe part with Linux orientation. Yeah, and this is at the end in our session, we will talk about, I think it's 5th of May, we will talk about key management. We will talk about questions like why key management is needed, which way to go, is it centralized, decentralized key management, should we choose an automated or rather a manual key management systems, what are challenges in such a project, setting it up, eventually costs, and stuff like that. So I do hope you will join me in our own session too. And many thanks again for IBM to organize this. I think it's really a great idea.
Thank you, Alina. We are happy to have you here today. And maybe Christian has said in the beginning that we are the IBM DACH team, so we are responsible for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And of course, we have also our partners from all these countries here with us today. And I would like to hand over to Volker, who's from Switzerland.
Hello, here's Volker. Okay, welcome. Yes, my background is I'm a software architect for now nearly, I think, is it already 30 years? So I'm getting old here. My relation to the mainframe is just that I just love this system. And what I'm working in is, if you Google me, you will find out that my background is white hat hacking. Yes, one of the not so evil guys. And I was invited here, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to all my friends at the IBM, because first, I have the pleasure to have a session together with Alina. And second, I will talk a little about zero trust architecture. This is a huge paradigm change in IT security. And I think the mainframe can play a key role in that. And yes, you will see it to make a statement that you can see how big it is. There will be no firewalls anymore after having this. And second, there is actually a presidential order, an executive order of President Biden that all US government entities, all federal entities must switch to that architecture. So I hope I get you interested to listen what this will be all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Volker, for this quick introduction. And thanks, of course, to all of you. We have a great bandwidth of topics. And now, last but not least, let's switch over to DTAG and let's hear from Kostin.
Hi there. Yeah, last one. Yeah, my name is Kostin. I'm managing director at DTAG. We are in the business of cybersecurity consulting. We've been doing this for more than 20 years with a strong focus on the financial industry, retail banking, pretty much everything. So we became, by necessity, also kind of experts in mainframe security. So we've been doing mainframe security, I would say, for more than 15 years, primarily penetration testing, security audits, and pretty much everything one can think when mainframe security is a subject of interest. And we are also developing security solutions for mainframe, primarily in the authentication field. This includes our EPA solution that covers mainframe password security. We're going to have a dedicated session on this topic in mid-May, I believe. So until then, I hope you'll be entertained by the others. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kostin, very much. And thanks to all of you. As you can see, hopefully we have a big bandwidth of topics. And please don't feel bad if you haven't remembered all of the individual sessions. We will share now a quick outlook of what the future sessions are going to be like. So, Jim, if you can quickly share the slide where we can all see what future sessions are to come. We will start today actually with the roundtable, of course, as all of you know, which involves all of us. And then we'll continue with beta systems and looking at basically top 5 security risks for network mainframes and beyond. So this will then start off at the 7th of April. We'll then focus and continue this with software engineering, talking about audit handling, especially for the finance and industry, for the insurance use cases. This will then happen at the end of April, 21st of April. And we'll follow this up by software AG. With, of course, a big focus on the databases, what we can do there, and what's actually very important for IBM-Z here. And then we'll move into the May with Empalis and actually Volker focusing on the identity and key management and why this is very important for the mainframe, right? So, of course, we'll also then look at the password side, at the most basic points of security with DTAC and actually how this can be improved. And the end of the session will mark the 2nd of June, actually, with Volker talking about the future of security, maybe about zero trust architecture, what it means for the security space in general, and actually where it can lead and what the role the mainframe actually plays in this topic. So where can you find all of those sessions? If you're here, this is great, because then you know already where to find it. The Crowdcast link, you can register here for all of the individual sessions. You will get an invitation, and you will see where this is coming along. So now let's start with the discussion. Larissa, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, well, maybe before we start the discussion, I would like to share one aspect with you all. So the last 2.5 years, I was focusing a lot on mainframe security, and something I got asked by many of my customers was, well, IBM-Z is a very secure system. Why do we have to implement additional security mechanisms? And as you might know, the IBM mainframe is an integral part of many companies, maybe of your company. And in the last, let's say, around 20 years, it has become a little bit more close, or a lot more closer to the internet via TCP/IP, and therefore new risks have arisen. I don't want to stress them too much right now, because I'm sure you will talk about them later and discuss them later. But one question Felix and I would like to ask you all and to discuss with you in the beginning is, how can we secure our workloads on running on the most secure system or this most secure platform?
Yeah, Larissa, thank you very much for setting the stage. And actually, I think if you look about security in the most basic form, actually the first thing that comes to mind is authentication, right? And how do you use authentication? Normally you focus on passwords. So, Kostin, we have you here in this session today. What do you think can be improved when it comes to passwords?
Well, I mean, first thing that comes to mind is that IBM has done a very good job with the latest updates in respect to password security. I'm talking about static passwords and dynamic passwords. Static passwords have a decent hashing algorithm they didn't have before. Now they have it, so it's KDFAS. If you're not using it, you should. So you should definitely migrate to that. And we now have hardware-backed security for dynamic passwords for the password tickets. So now the keys are no longer just out there to be found by everyone in the record database. They're actually protected by a hardware backend. So we have the necessary tools from the IBM side to do a good job. The next thing is, of course, we all have to do our maintenance. So to keep things secure, one has to also test. So the next thing to make sure that your authentication is secure is to basically test your passwords. Make sure that you are not using weak passwords, shared passwords, exposed passwords, leaked passwords, or one-time password tokens like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 8. So these are basics, but we do a lot of security audits for mainframes, and we find that most companies, or many companies, let's say, don't really do a terribly good job there. So yeah, you have the tools. IBM has made the tools available. Vendors, proud vendors like us and the others, come with add-ons that help you get there. So yeah, use the best features that you have from IBM, and always make sure that your passwords are tested and are compliant with your regulations. And even if your mainframe has a very strong hashing algorithm, don't presume that this will protect you, because you have other weaker targets in your environment, such as Active Directory, which has passwords that can be easily hacked, and then they can be reused by spraying, for example, against your mainframe. So make sure that your authentication is consistently secure in your entire environment, and follow the news. So when you outsource authentication, make sure that you're not a victim of attacks like Okta and others.
Thank you, Kostin, very much for sharing your view on this. And I'm very much looking forward to your session on how this is actually done in DTAC, and what we can do about this to help all of us improve, get our mainframes more secure. So we've now looked at quite a specific topic. If we now step back a little and look at the security from a more general kind of standpoint, Adam, if we look at you, and if we look at Beta Systems, you will be talking about 5 top security risks on the IBM Z environment. So what are they right now?
Yes. So before I touch on all 5 of those, I just want to say that I know when we talk about things like top 5, it automatically gets all of us thinking about our own opinions and our own views on what are the top 5, or what do I believe are the top 5. So I just want to say that I understand that we're all going to come at this from a different angle, but I know that we can find common ground. And with that in mind, at Beta Systems, when we've been thinking about and really learning more about what are those top security risks that corporations face today, we're first approaching it by recognizing, hey, the mainframe has been built to handle our most complex workloads and handle our critical business data, which means that that's why all of our major companies continue to trust and rely on the mainframe to just do its job. But that reliance and that trust is really, it can erode if it's not managed well, if security across all of our systems, not just on the mainframe, but all systems that tie into it, if security is not managed well. So with that, that means that we have to fully mitigate these top 5 that we see to help prevent that breach of trust. So that starts with number 1, device security across your network, because your network is both your first line of defense, but also that continuous line of defense. It's continuous because you have to continually assess, hey, what are devices doing and accessing, and what are they doing behind the scenes, even after they've been granted access to various systems within the network. Number 2 is fully securing a remote workforce, especially when it comes to additional threats or being exposed to things like public Wi-Fi and public networks. Because even though maybe over the last couple of years, maybe there's a little bit of less travel that we've seen develop, there's still a lot of folks going to their local coffee shop. They're going to remote places to work, even if just to get a break from the main scene at their house, like we all are most of the time now. But that still means that our systems and our mainframe data can be exposed to extra risks. Say somebody has a TSO log on, or they're logging into the mainframe via a web application. If we're not prepared to handle that, if we don't have the right security measures in place, that can become a problem. Number 3, already mentioned earlier, but password management and authentication. And I know sometimes we still feel like this should be a problem of the past only, but it's not. It continues to be a problem today. And that's something that we'll dive in more detail on best practices for that. And these last 2, they are separate, but they're really linked, and it really exposes that human factor, that human element that we have to address when it comes to security for all of our systems, including IBM Z. And that is social engineering and social media. So social engineering, for those not as familiar, think of somebody purposefully manipulating or taking advantage of personal confidential information and then using that to fraudulently gain access to our corporate systems. And then social media And I know that sometimes we often just kind of go to, okay, Facebook, Twitter, those basic ones, but it's really not the typical ones that you're thinking about that we're going to talk about during our session in April. And that is because virtually all platforms, even corporate systems, have social communities. They have the ability to comment. They have the ability to continually interact in some social way. And that means things like Slack, Teams, Mattermost, various others that are out there. All of those systems enable us to perhaps divulge too much information, and that feeds back into a lot of these risks that we've talked about. So the bottom line here is that IBM Z can be vulnerable to various tactics that social engineering, social media enables, and really that's more of what I'll be addressing in April. So there you have it. They're the top 5 risks that we see for corporate networks, our mainframe systems, and really across all systems in our enterprise.
Thank you, Adam. And to be honest, I believe that the human factor is really crucial. So when I remember when my bank 2 or 3 years ago, I think, introduced a multi-factor authentication, to be honest, I hated it in the beginning because it was not really usable and it took me more time. And that's what security is about. It's a trade-off between usability and security. And I guess that's why auditing was introduced. So maybe let's see, Roy, what do you think? What are typical audit requirements for different industries using the mainframe?
Well, yeah, I mean, in Germany, we have banks and finance and insurance. They have, over the years, required more and more auditing, and legislation has come and been approved and copied all over the world. You've probably all heard of Sarbanes-Oxley. There's the BaFin over here in Germany. That's the Regulatory Supervisory Board. And they've come out with a bunch of regulations, GDPR, of course, which everybody hates. If you're involved in information technology, we all hate it, but we all click on it and we all say, yes, we're going to do it. And if you say, yes, we're going to do it, you've got to do it because it's a regulatory compliance. And the boards, the supervisory boards, can actually then shut down your bank or your insurance company if you are not doing this, which is, of course, pretty critical for the bottom line of your firm. So I would say auditing, especially in Germany, and I would presume these things are everywhere. They're definitely, I know, in England and America as well. You've got COBIT over there in America, of course, with Hyper and all these things. All of this means we cannot get past auditing. It's just like when MFA, as you said, Larissa, was brought in by the banking. It annoys everyone, but you have to do it.
Great, thank you so much.
I think we also have a question from the audience coming up, which is very, very nice to see. It is about, I think, Kostin, the part you talked about, basically password security. And is fingerprint far more secure than actually a password? What's your take on this?
Well, you see, if you have a Google Android phone, every 24 or 48 hours you are asked to, and you are using a fingerprint, you are asked by the phone, and you cannot disable that, to enter a more secure authentication method, meaning your password. So Google tells us that it's not, that the password is supposed to be the more secure option. Now, biometrics in general are excellent for identification, but they are not used for authentication. So identification means try to identify this person, but you are not never sure that it is really this person. Your fingerprints can be copied. Your fingerprints are recorded by many border authorities when you enter some countries. So this is definitely not a secret. It's something that is difficult to replicate, but it is not secret. So we, in our industry, we don't count fingerprints or other biometric measurements as authentication, but they are excellent tools for identification.
Great, thank you for answering this question. I think you and also Roy has pointed it out. It's all about data and it's all about GDPR and fulfilling regulatory requirements. So where do we store this data, especially on the mainframe? Of course, within databases. So Jürgen, I would like to ask you, what do you think, what is important when focusing on auditing and databases? What can we do to secure our systems? And what industry requirements exist?
Yeah, thank you. looking at securing the databases, I would first say security is not an end in itself. I think we heard it from the other speakers already. So look, a lot of data is residing in databases today, and most of that data is to be kept secret for different kinds of reasons, either because it is personal data to be secured by a regulation. GDPR was already mentioned by Roy, or PCI DSS, a standard from the credit card industry, or it belongs to the heart of an organization keeping other secrets like recipes, customer lists, QE data, financial data, and so on. And even more economy-related regulations. We already heard Sarbanes-Oxley, SOX, in this call. In the end, are based on reliable and secured, unaltered data. That's the important thing, unaltered data by accident, yeah? So it needs to be secure because all the business is relying on it. And if we take a closer look, a database is not just a black box. Database containers and other files are residing on disk. Accessing the database, the requests are more and more coming in from remote clients over the wire. So this means we need to secure data in flight, data at rest, as well as access control the database. Sometimes we easily forget that an attacker only needs to find one gap to get in, actually. Yeah? More so, a criminally energized attacker does not fear any cost caused by destructive measurements, as we do, yeah, with our normal thinking, so to speak. So actually, we all face the defender's dilemma. We need to close down all potential gaps, while an attacker just needs to find one gap to get in. That's why it is important to secure our databases.
Thanks, Jürgen, for this really elaborate view on this. And I think you touched upon a very important point, which is that we actually need to secure our data. And one way, of course, of securing data is by encrypting it, right? And Alina, but when it comes to encryption, of course, encryption keys play an integral part of it. Not only do they have and do we have them and they do exist, but actually we need to store them safely, right? So can you tell us a little bit more on why we actually need key management?
Sure. As you said, whenever you use encryption, the process or algorithm itself uses cryptographic keys. So these can be of many different types. I'm not going now into the details, like what kind of types, but they have a scope also, and they're having different, as I said, types of encryption keys and different expectation on the security level. So some of them need to be kept secret. And at this latest point, you need key management, actually, to manage the life cycle of the keys. And this is the point of key management. What that means, key life cycle. It means from the point of start planning the keys, through their generation, through the installation in some cryptographic devices, because most of the time when you do encrypt, you also want to encrypt securely, so not in software, maybe using some hardware cryptographic device called HSM modules, hardware security modules. You would like probably to back up in a way those keys and also have some disaster plans if something is going wrong, if the keys are compromised. So you would like maybe to change some attributes of these keys, like the expiry date, maybe, I don't know, there are a lot of things. And at the end, when a key is not needed anymore, you also have to think about when it's time to destroy a key and how you do it. And all this, depending on your security requirements, the potential risk that you have, the costs related to those risks, the compliance requirements that you have, maybe even your own business policies. The key management needs to be done in a very secure way. Improper key management, on the other side of these encryption keys, is quite a common problem. A poor key management system or missing processes around it. It leads to a lot of negative effects, like failure to meet compliance, audit requirements, that at some point lead even to quite high penalties when audited by external auditors. But also there is a high potential of data breach or even data loss. And this can cost you even more, not only your reputation, because everybody talks about reputation. I think it could cost you even your business, to be honest. So yeah, the whole encryption system may be rendered even unusable or unmaintainable if you don't use proper key management and you don't have a concept of this key lifecycle management. But if you decided to use one key management system, this is where the fun part starts, to be honest, how to find the right one. One that meets all your requirements on security, on availability of the keys and algorithms, on usability, on and in a way of commodity also. Yeah, you have maybe requirements to meet on compatibility and interactivity with other IT infrastructure around it, and maybe with your communication partners. Because honestly, everywhere where you encrypt, you're not in your own encapsulated system. You're communicated mostly with the outside world, with some partners. And this is the point where you need to exchange keys maybe with those communication partners. So all this key management, it gets a bit more complex, complicated, you could say. I would say challenging, but it is nothing that it cannot be handled with the right planning. So hope it answers a bit your question.
Thank you, Alina. That's great. And I think maybe just to add or to stress a little bit more from my perspective, I think encryption is something that's already in place, that should even be used more often than it is already, at least on the mainframe. Because when I think about my private life, maybe, for instance, in WhatsApp, encryption is already used when transferring messages. And key management is really the key, like Alina said. But maybe that's something that's in place today. And Volker, let's talk about what comes in the future. Maybe talk about zero trust architecture. How is the security or the future of security going to be?
Good question. Prediction are always complex and risky, especially when they are about the future, as we all know. Good question. Still, because things are going to change now. You know, things are changing. If I may comment on what other people already said, my colleagues here, this is getting more importance, this security topic. And when I see the multiple options you have on a great platform like IBM Z, then a good system programmer, even a very good system programmer, may feel drowning in the options, right? In just the richness of the tools. And what is a strategy? How could be a strategy to deal with all of this? And how can we make a system, actually a concrete system, secure? And this is a complex question, and the answer can be fairly easy. I think the answer would be like, and that must be the answer of the future, you program things and automate and use tools which are automated, so you get a high level of security by default. That is, of course, the credo of PEP, of Pretty Easy Privacy, the organization I'm representing, but it's also, please take it as my personal credo. This is how, in my view, IT security must develop, because we heard already, and I can sign this, the attacker has so many options to go in, to sneak in, and we defenders have defender's dilemma, which is, again, we need to close all of them, and an attacker needs only one of them, and he or she is in. And so how can we prevent that from happening? And that must be automation, automated key management, automated security, automated security system, and at last, automated security testing, right? So we can guarantee that at least all well-known attacks are closed and remain being closed. And that is a topic how I see how the future of IT security must develop, especially when I'm looking on zero trust architecture, because then the level of security is so high, the bar is so high, I would even struggle with having an idea of how could that ever reach by just manually doing things. I think the manual game is running out, and the automating security game is just, we are in the middle of it, right? And just to make a last remark on zero trust architecture, it's not zero trust. I think all of us already, or nearly all of us already, implement or even drive a zero trust system where we just include bring your own device methods, so people can include untrusted devices to access central systems, like, for example, the mainframe. Many of us at least do already. But this is not what zero trust architecture is about. When you have zero trust architecture, then this is not needed anymore. You will not need any zero trust systems anymore. They will get replaced by how you set up security in zero trust architecture. Good message. You don't need to change your systems, but it's more affecting our security guys. You will need to change the security implementation. So the systems the subsystems which provide security, but you can keep your existing network. So I think that is what will change in a nutshell.
Thanks, Volker. I think that's a great answer. I believe for a lot of people, the concept of zero trust and zero trust architecture is still something that is lying far ahead in the future. And I look very much forward to you bringing this concept maybe a little closer to all of us within the session on how this can be actually used and actually how this can be used in conjunction with IBM Z and the mainframe environment. Now, if we switch a little bit from a corporate environment, maybe more to a personal environment, we have another question coming up from the audience, which is about actually digital signatures. So what are they and why are they important? Volker, maybe you can add a few points to that.
Yeah, sure. It's the implementation of a basic idea. The basic idea is you don't want to have unauthenticated data. When you get a message with data, whatever that message is, it can be an email, it can be an IBM MQ message or anything else. When you get data input, you want to be sure that this input is coming from a reliable source and you can take it serious. And so how can that be achieved? It can be achieved by cryptography. And one of the options you actually have in cryptography to guarantee that is a digital signature. The idea is as simple as that. In cryptography, you can actually have a key, which is called a public key, which you publish. And only with that public key, things can be decrypted when you have a private key which matches. And so you don't publish a private key. So it's a key pair. And the trick is now, when you send data, you send a checksum. So you use some checksum function to make a checksum, and then you encrypt the checksum with your private key. So only with your public key, it can be decrypted. So everyone can do the following. Is that coming from the owner of the private key? Well, decrypt it with the public key of that guy. Check the checksum. Is it matching? Yes. Is it not matching? No. And by that, you have the option to guarantee that something is coming from authorized source. And that is a very good idea, by the way. So we all should use it way more. And that's the next step. When you automate communication, securing communication, you can use PEP for it or anything else. Be sure PEP does it 100% fully automated always, that all data is authenticated and you're not taking data from unauthenticated source. That brings a lot of security, especially for business critical missions.
Thank you, Volker, for the point on this. And thanks all of you and also for asking the question. So feel free, if you have any other questions coming up, just type them in the chat and we will get to them accordingly. So I think that's really great. We've now looked at one question and we've got already different answers and another different answer, of course, coming up. I think this is what's really interesting about connecting different people and looking at security from a different standpoint. And hopefully all of you have already seen the kind of different perspective represented in the different sessions coming up. Now, actually, Christian, if we look at you, you've mentioned in the beginning that IBM Z is the most secure platform, right? And we have now heard a lot about different kind of future topic, different challenges, different takes there are from the ecosystem on the IBM Z environment and what's got to do with it with the security. So actually, how do you see all of this in relation with IBM Z?
Yeah, I think the speakers already made it quite clear, right? So I even don't have to bring this up again. Yeah. So I think we all agree that IBM Z offers a lot of security advantages out of the box. Yeah. So we are the most complete platform for security. But, and we have seen this, of course, clients have to implement it, have to manage it, and have to audit it. Yeah, so I think that came out, for example, with DTEC. Yeah, if you don't use the latest features or the latest algorithms that are available, then also your platform is not the most secure one. It can be, but you have to do it. Or with as seen from beta, there are many challenges that are not just technical questions. Yeah, if we look at social media or human exposure topic he brought up, also from Roy, then you can have the best database security, but you need to be able to prove that you are regularly checking it and that you are compliant against your regulatory guidelines. Or also from Alina, you can have a great key management solution, but you need ways how to administer it and efficiently use it. And also what Jürgen said about database security, I think many clients could do more there. Just a question on where to start, how to start, and how much you want to do. So I think all in all these mechanisms are available. The question is how you implement it for your company.
Thank you, Christian, for sharing this view. So maybe I'd like to sum it up what I understand or understood from you all right now. So there should be like two large drivers for IT security. Is that correct? That the first one is about the paranoia to be hacked or to be the target of an attacker. And the second one is about compliance and about auditing. Is that correct? Or do you have any additional drivers in mind?
Sounds correct.
No, I think it's correct. I mean, compliance is one of the biggest driver, meanwhile, in security. And even if talking from a key management point of view, we are just at the end of all this chain. So everybody else is in front of key management, to be honest, talking about security. But still, at the end, if something is not working, if we haven't combined all those technical measures, all those organizational measures, if we if you didn't plan a clear separation of duties everywhere in the security area, if we don't do awareness trainings, disaster tests, pen testing, whatever. So even such a big machine like the mainframe, and I always comparing a bit like the x86 machine with a cat, you know, it needs to be secured, and the mainframe is the tiger, but still it needs to be secured the same way as any other machine. And in order to get compliant to fulfill whatever requirements you have. I totally agree with you, Larissa.
Thank you so much, Alina.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much, Alina, for sharing this view and also on what this means for Impalis and on general. And I really like this comparison between the cat and the tiger, right? Because we've already established IBM Z is a very secure platform, and we're working on it to make it even more secure by ourselves and also, of course, through the help of you. So I think this is something in the audience everyone likes to hear, right?
So you will. We will now be the tiger, Felix. Okay, I will remember that one.
Good point. Yeah, within this context, basically, not of course within the tiger, but within the security of IBM Z context. Volker, maybe let's look at this again and learn about it in a bit more detail. We've been looking now more on a compliance point of view. How do you think this relates actually to the zero trust architecture?
Oh, that's a big one. Let me try to elaborate. I would say today not yet, but this is quickly coming in now. When we are having a look on the compliance side of zero trust architecture, then there is already a NIST paper about that, and we are already having a draft, at least from the CISA, that they have published the zero trust architecture maturity model. So you can measure how mature your system already is. And I think that will now quickly develop into standards and into compliance, because we have that executive order. At least for US government organizations, this will be a compliance criterion to be mature in that point. And to be honest, whatever the NIST did in security industry, I think everyone in the call maybe knows it, will come to us as compliance regulation. There was no exception from that rule I'm aware of, or I could remember. And so I would say this is now quickly coming in with all that pressure. You can think about there around about 120 federal organizations in US government, and they all now are starting 1 up to 5 projects in parallel. And the money is there. So actually the president of the United States wants that. And so I think this will come, and there's no way around it. And if you're clever, I would say try to check out this topic, because it will come to you soon anyway, whatever you do, in whatever business you are, and find out how to get into that topic, because it will be a mandatory and it will be a compliance thing quicker than we all think of.
Thank you, Volker. I think those are very valid points, and actually also focusing on it's not a question of whether this will be the case, but you actually saying, okay, this will be the case, and prepare for this, because as we know, the NIST, all the kind of institutions who actually provide those changes, while all of the customers who are in a regulated environment have to adhere to those changes, they will have to look into this, right? So this is not a question of when, but a question of how, right? Mm-hmm. Also for the mainframe.
Yeah, it's actually also a question of how, I would say. That's a very good point. When is a little unclear, I would say. I never saw a process, we never ever had an executive order of a US president about an IT security architectural topic. At least I was very surprised that we get that, right? So this is really new, and there's a lot of power behind it. But of course, everyone needs to get a chance even to dive in and try to find out what needs to be done. And that leads us to the how process. And I would say, actually, the mainframe has some extremely interesting properties, security properties to deliver in this field. The basic idea of zero trust architecture is that you do the following. You don't trust anyone anymore by architecture. That means you don't trust central system, which sounds even contradicting trusting the mainframe, but it's not. Let me explain. The idea is that from VM to VM, or from container to container, from application to application, you only want to have the best, endpoint security which you ever can have. And there's the mainframe. There's the strong position of the mainframe, I believe. And the complete communication between the containers, between the VMs, between the application must be secured. There is no exception anymore. There is no unauthenticated, unsecured communication possible in that architecture. So if you do this, I think our contribution as PEP could be that we help, our products actually already help. We are already in, if you measure with a maturity model, we are already at maturity state optimal, because our products are designed for that. But who can help with the endpoint security? And there, the IBM, and especially on the mainframe platform, we have amazing features there. For example, we have IBM Secure Execution. We have IBM HyperProtect Virtual Service. We have unparalleled, really unparalleled endpoint security, which a platform can deliver. I don't know it from any other platform, an implementation of homomorphic encryption. That's the technology behind it. The IBM is leading here. And have a look on it. It can run on your mainframe. It's a product from the IBM. If you match things like the best possible endpoint security, and like, for example, the PEP's products, you have the best protection for the message flow in between, you get quickly there. And you keep what you have. It's not about changing your complete IT infrastructure. The transition is quite easy. It's doable. And that is why I questioned why don't start with it now?
Thank you, Volker. I totally agree. I'm always asked myself in the last 2.5 years, why do not start with compliance right now, even if there is maybe not a compliance finding right now? And I think you have already stressed it a bit that the IBM Z is a special, but also a very vital platform for many of our customers right now. So maybe, Roy, I would like to ask you, do you think there are any special compliance requirements which Volker hasn't already mentioned yet?
Nope, I think Volker covered absolutely everything I was going to say. But that's okay, I can still talk. No, I think the regulatory compliance is a absolutely major topic. The software that I've been writing over the years, Workload Expert, started as a workload expert. It analyzed the workload on the mainframe. And a byproduct of this was the ability to audit what was happening on the mainframe. And what's happened over the last few years is this has now turned around. Now, our software is used to audit the mainframe, and the DBAs, the performance DBAs, use the byproducts to actually use the workload expert part to actually tune their machine. Because auditing has become a compliance which you must have. There's money there for it, as we've been talking about today. And all of the German firms, they've got to have it. You have to prove that you're auditing yourself. You have to have external people that come in and check. The good old days of just getting a fax with a 1 page of stuff which said rack F and everyone ticked it are gone. You actually have to have a proper external audit which comes in and checks, are you being duly diligent? And if you're not being duly diligent, you end up in a world of pain. And what I look upon with the mainframe, it's an old joke, but never trust a computer you can lift. It's as simple as that. I've always trusted the mainframe. The mainframe over the years has got better and better and better. Key rings, we've been speaking about key rings. That's a little bit, I think the right word there is a challenge. But once you get the keyring on the mainframe up and running, you then have MFA with Zoe, and everything is super green. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but you've got to have this, because if you don't have MFA, then you have a major compliance problem straight away. Just look at your smartphone. How many things you have on here which you must put in a pin, use your face, whatever. Everything has it, and the mainframe has it now. And so, as other people have said, if you're not doing it because your business is not yet required to do it by some law, you should still be doing it. It's like doing the updates of your Windows PC. You don't have to do it, but you'd be crazy not to, yeah?
Thanks very much. Yeah, never trust a computer you can lift. This is something I'll take away here, right? So if we go back to a more general point of view, I think, Adam, you have already mentioned basically the 5 key challenges you see actually in the market right now. So how do you actually think those risks and challenges are actually related to the compliance challenges?
Yes. Well, before I do that, I feel like I need to check my own laptop and my phone based on Roy and Volker. They've got me wondering what I've got on there. So, but in terms of compliance, honestly, I feel like I should start by saying I think it's something that we've seen, especially with customers and just in our experiences, that compliance can feel and sound like a bad word. There are a lot of people who've had various poor experiences or just difficult experiences, almost like it's a burden to try and get your systems or your software or your network or whatever it is into compliance with country laws or regulations or just self-imposed industry standards or organizational standards. And from our perspective, what we try to do first is alleviate the administrative burden that often comes with getting into compliance for our customers, while at the same time maintaining that goal of security, of bettering or improving security across all your systems, especially on IBM Z. And when we do that, it really does have that added benefit when you're getting into compliance with various industry standards or various regulations, especially those that we've been talking about today. You start to get into those aspects of mitigation, mitigating those top security risks that I already mentioned. And we try to address that at Beta Systems really from 2 different perspectives. So first, comprehensive, and then shifting our focus down into being specific. And that really means that, and I think Volker had really touched on this, where solutions on the mainframe, you've got a lot that's already existing there whether it's your mainframe or even other systems, that you don't want it to just perform, say, a single function or perform or provide just a few reports so that you can, say, successfully be audited by Sarbanes-Oxley or GDPR or payment card industry standards or ISO, you name it, right? Instead, we want those existing tools that already support daily operations, especially on our mainframe, to be keeping watch over over our systems for security. And then all of those really, by providing that support, they're going to answer that question that we get about, hey, how do I reliably get the data I need to pass this audit or to stay compliant with this regulation? And that allows us to build on what we already have within our systems. Just as a quick example of this, say on the mainframe and thinking about RACF specifically, if you think about native RACF, it actually can be quite a challenge to just gather all the data that you need for especially less experienced administrators or auditors. But with the right tools, we have some tools that really make it much easier to interact with that and run reports, such as STIGs or security technical implementation guides. And those are really best practices. And what they do is they uncover and identify vulnerabilities, such as those that we've talked about, say with social engineering, or even just those tactics that we talked about earlier, where you're already audit ready for any RACF type of audit at any moment in time, while at the same time you're reducing your risks of security breaches. Or let's take, for example, somebody is already in your system. Somebody has already bypassed, and I believe Jürgen had mentioned, if they just slip through that one gap, right? But once they're in, we still want to mitigate what they have access to and what they can do once they're inside the system. So that's really what that's all about. So just a quick summary of a lot of the things that I just talked about, hopefully. Compliance, it doesn't have to be a bad word. Staying compliant, it doesn't have to be a burden. And we absolutely can help mitigate all of our security risks by getting into compliance, whatever that type of regulation may be, especially mitigating those top 5 that we've talked about today.
Thank you, Adam, for all those points, and also for the very short and concise summary, which I think includes a lot of important information all of our viewers and listeners can actually take with them into their environments and customer environments, of course. So if we look at the mainframe as the most secure platform, and we also have presumably the most secure data on this platform, right? And this data is, of course, stored mainly in the databases. And of course, also those databases then need to be compliant, right? So Jürgen, I'm now looking in your perspective, especially with regards to databases. What do you think? What role does actually compliance play there?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Felix. Again, even if you can't hear it anymore, securing the data is my number 1. And my number 2 is auditing. And securing the data means to allow access only to those who really need to have access to the data, and at the same time keep out all the others. So bottom line, securing the database means encryption of data plus access control. And our security products exploit the IBM's pervasive encryption, for example, in different ways. There is the cryptographic services, because we need, of course, algorithms that are state of the art and that are able to withstand any audit. Yeah. There is even hardware acceleration then for the cryptographic encryption or decryption functions. And encryption, of course, needs keys. So there is also enterprise key management that can be exploited and comes into play. But I rather suggest a leaner session for that topic, actually. And for access control, our enterprise zSecurity is making use of, again, IBM's RACF. Another very valid measurement, very effective measurement, I think Adam talked a bit about it, is keeping the realms as small as necessary. So not having overly large realms everyone can get in. It's just about creating obstacles for people we want to keep out. Yeah. And my number 2, auditing. Auditing not only helps you to withstand any audits. Yeah. Auditing also gives you insight into what happened with your database. So either to withstand a suspected case against your organization or against an employee in your organization, or to calculate the risk in case of a successful attack resulting in data loss. Here we are working together with Better Systems in Berlin. Hello, Adam, to provide ADABAS auditing for COS. So once more, number one, secure your data. Number two, establish auditing. That's what I suggest to become security compliant.
That sounds great, Jürgen. Thank you for sharing your view. And I think you and also Adam talked a lot about RACF. And I was just thinking, when I remember back to the time when I started 5 years ago with the mainframe, this was a special term to me. And I didn't know what RACF was about, because in university they taught us other platforms. So Christian, maybe I would like to ask you, what do you think, what, as IBMZ is kind of a special platform, what does auditing mean for it? And especially what implications are there for auditors?
Yeah, I think we talk about ZOS here, right? So that's the unique architecture. Yeah, of course, we have Linux and other operating systems, but ZOS is the unique architecture you're referring to, right? And of course, yeah, auditors are not specialists in every little detail of ZOS, yeah. But I think the good aspect here is that there are so many capabilities, options available that the auditors do not need to have that insight into ZOS. So they do not need to know all the details about RACF. And that's if they are able to use the tools that are available either from IBM or other vendors. And of course, if they then have also the support, the services around, to really get insight into the system without being an expert in detail of COS or the subsystems that are running on COS. Yeah, so I think it's a unique architecture, right? But auditors can get the details if they are using the right tooling that is available.
Thank you, Christian. Yeah, I think it's a good point, and we've talked now a lot about how can we actually help customers be more compliant, and how can we actually assist in those compliance challenges. But of course, as also already mentioned, security is more than just being compliant, right? And one part of security is also to test your systems, right, Costin? And I think this is something where DTAC really comes in with the pen testing of the mainframe, right? So pen testing is a concept that is well known, of course, also in other environments. But what role do you think it especially plays on the mainframe?
Yeah, so well, I think in the past, I'm talking like 20 years or so, 15 years or so, mainframes were not really subject to penetration testing, they were subject to auditing, which in terms of security was mostly RACF auditing. So checking your authorizations, making sure that everything makes sense and is consistent with your business model. However, the mainframes are now more and more connected to the external world. So they are connected to the internet indirectly through applications. They are connected to other in-house systems. They are accessed by employees, administrators, from their lovely Windows laptops and workstations. Even if we look at the mainframe as a secure system, we should not forget that any third-party system which is pre-authorized to connect to the mainframe that gets hacked, it will implicitly lead to a security compromise on the mainframe. So that's the first reason why penetration testing on the mainframe should be taken seriously, because it's more and more open to external access and is more and more open to external applications. The second thing is that we are told, and we believe, that it's the most secure system. So we've been saying this a lot. But what does this mean? I mean, when you're getting, let's focus on ZOS, you are getting an operating system and a bunch of subsystems running on it. They are very secure indeed. And they've been, even if they were not secure in the past, they've been secured by IBM after fixing numerous bugs. So we have a secure out-of-the-box delivery. But this thing will not do anything if you just use it out of the box. You need to run something on it. You need your applications. You put your data, your workloads, and so on. And these are not coming from IBM. They are not very secure. They're as secure as you know how to make them. So IBM gives you a good tool set. It gives you sharp knives, solid doors, but you need the expertise to use this in a secure manner. And the reality is that it is not more secure in the end than any Windows or Linux-based application environment. Yes, the operating system will be secure, and the default subsystems will be secure, but your own applications will be as secure as good as your developers are. So as we are doing a lot of pen tests on mainframes, what we see after a pen test is that out of an amount of vulnerabilities, only between 1% and 3%, or maybe up to 5% in some extreme cases, will go to IBM. The rest will affect the customer development and other third-party solutions. So don't count on the fact that the mainframe is a very secure system out of the box, because you will first make it insecure. You need to pen test it, and then you need to fix it, and then also your workloads or your applications will also be secure.
Great, Carsten. Thank you for sharing your view. And so I think we've discussed a lot of challenges, and we talked about a lot about auditing and compliance. So Alina, I asked you in the beginning, what are typical compliance challenges of your customers? And we have discussed many of them. Are there any additional thoughts or aspects you would like to add, which we might have missed now?
Okay, I'll try to summarize a bit. I mean, there are a lot of compliance challenges and a lot of regulations out there, depending on which business you have or the people listening have, if they are in an area of finance, healthcare, automotive, industrial, whatever. We already heard about Sarbanes-Oxley and GDPR and BaFin for finances in Germany. Probably everybody heard already about ISO 27001. And I do know the Germans one, and especially there is a government institute called BSI in Germany that also issues a lot of practices out there to be used for businesses when talking about security, when talking about encryption, key management, whatever. And on top, talking about banking field, there is also a German institute called DK, like the translated probably the German credit economy or something. And this is particularly, it's very interesting because the participants there are all sitting, a person sitting in the banks or finances with very high level of or needs of security. And they put together a standard and requirements that are, in my opinion, the highest possible when we talk about security, when we talk about encryption, algorithms that we use, key management also. And this, I prefer to take this standard as my kind of way to follow than any other else. For me, ISO 27001 is nice to have, surely, yeah, but it's not a standard for encryption or for really deep down security issues. So what I would like maybe to add is to get compliant or to help customers get compliant, you need to understand how to secure your system, especially if you use encryption, that you don't only need technical measures, you also need a lot of organizational processes, which are mostly just something very, something that it's a pain in the, I'm sorry. But you need to consider it, yeah? You need to define those organizational processes, you need to define your roles, the persons that are involved in this security infrastructure, you need to separate the responsibilities, secure all of this. And also you need to talk about your people or with your people, you need to do awareness trainings, yeah, to sensibilize the people for security, because the most, or not the most, but a lot of risk, a high risk is still human failure, to be honest. Even if it's not on purpose, it's mostly due to missing knowledge or just not following the processes. It doesn't matter. If something happens, the system is compromised. And it must not happen specifically something. If you just have the if you just get an idea that your system may be compromised, you have to already consider it like compromised, and you have to do all those disaster plans and follow the disaster plans if you just have an idea that it could be compromised. So these are challenges actually in all this security environment, in my opinion. And of course, there are deliberate attacks too there. So also here you need to ensure your system, technically speaking, and I talked earlier about that x86, like a small machine, a big machine. Even if you cannot lift the machine or you cannot lift the Tiger, our mainframe, but I still think you have to put a cage around that Tiger so that it doesn't take his crawls out, you know, so nobody gets into this machine. I totally agree with you, Kostin. You need to take all those measures for the mainframe too, like for every other machine. Of course, we are lucky there's no Windows running maybe on the mainframe. Yeah, we have a ZOS or a ZVM as an operating system, or Linux, which is quite comfortable meanwhile for everybody. So technically, everybody could run a mainframe with a Linux One operating system on it, but you still have to put all those technical measures in place and organizational measures in place to achieve security, to get to be compliant. I think that's what I would like to add as a all around it. Maybe key management is, technically speaking, a small part. From an organizational point of view, quite a big part of it. And I think for all the parts that everybody covers here, the processes around it are very, very important to take care of and to be aware of them.
Thank you, Alina. I think we have actually come full circle on this, and I think this is also something I really enjoyed, and my thanks goes out to all of you for participating in this discussion part, because we've covered a broad range of security topics, and we've looked at personal environments, we've looked at, of course, companies' environments, and I think this was a really lively discussion. And also with regards to the time, I would like to conclude this session and hand over to Christian.
Yeah, I think we can keep it quite short. Yeah? So I learned today security and compliance is a topic for everybody, right? For every client in every industry, no matter where. So IBMC provides great capabilities. So start implementing. Yeah, if you did not do it already, it's your responsibility. Yeah, so it's your responsibility. But we are here to help. We are here to support, to really make sure that your IBMC environment is the most secure one. So with that, back to you, Felix, Larissa.
Thank you, Christian. Actually, that's also a really good point. And maybe I would like to catch up at least a bit on the story of Alina, of a cat and a tiger. So imagine, or this is a story I usually like to share when I talk about security and the need why you have to secure your IBMC system, even if it's a really secure platform in itself. And maybe some of you have already heard the story, but I still like to share it because it fits perfectly with Alina's cat and tiger story. So imagine you're on a safari and you're hunted by a tiger. And you are there with two of your best friends. So in this moment, probably you don't care about being the most fastest person running away from the tiger, but you at least try to be more faster than another person, so that you are not catched by the lion or by the tiger. And actually, that's the same for IT security. So your system does not have to be that secure or perfectly secure, but it should at least be more secure than the system of your competitors. And same goes for IBMZ, because usually hackers look for the most weakest spot in the system.
Thank you, Larissa, for sharing this great story. And I think we've discovered some great analogies. We've had some great sayings within this series, right? And before we close this roundtable session, maybe let's have a short look again of on what's coming up, because this was only the start, right? This was all of us together. And now, as you can see, you'll have the timetable here. We will have individual sessions for everyone, and we'll also have, of course, participants from IBM taking part. So this kind of lively discussion will go on. And you can find the link to register here on Crowdcast for all these upcoming sessions. And maybe if we look at the next one, it's with beta systems already in 2 weeks' time. And Adam, maybe you would like to share a little more information on what you've touched upon today and what will be kind of more of the focus on the next session to close it off.
Sure. So really, in terms of what I talked about today were the top 5 security risks that we had seen in regards to networks. I talked about mainframes specifically. So when we're talking about ZOS and IBM Z, what I'm really going to be focusing on are best practices for securing RACF and mitigating all of those risks that we've seen. And we're going to touch on other systems that are tied into the mainframe, because we're not thinking about the mainframe as a silo anymore. We're thinking about it, how it expands out from that. So join me for that. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Adam. That sounds great. I'm also looking forward to the session. And by this, I would like to thank you all for taking part of in the series today, also to Christian and to our ecosystem, but more importantly, thank you to you in the audience. If there are any additional questions, please let us know in the chat. And we would like to see, or we hope to see you again in 2 weeks in the session with Beta Systems. Thank you.
Take care.